Hey, if you're still here for puppy content, Ivy's having a nap on the bed while I'm making this video, so don't get it. I don't know how she'll stay there. But if you're watching this video at work, Alt tab to something else. No. Okay, I'm only joking. But seriously, if you're a creative working a corporate role and you've got some creative energy that you want to use elsewhere, you know what I'm talking about. You know that you show up and you spend your energy on someone else's vision and practice, and you're using that creative energy when you get home. You're too drained to use it or to try it. Look, I get it. I know that you need stability, you need the job, it's good for you, but it's sucking the life out of your personal projects and your personal passion and your creativity. Look, I understand. I worked for years in Apple with really creative people, and it was a constant struggle for us to stay creative in the midst of that, even working in such a big creative company. And when I worked at Indeed, one of the reasons my boss loved me and hired me was because I came with a lot of creativity. I had a YouTube channel. I, did my own thing. I had a lot of, I was doing side photography as a kind of side hustle at the time. I quickly gave that up because I realized just that I'd already spreading myself thin enough delivering creative ideas at work to then come home and kind of try it again. What are you after? Oh, just was getting more comfortable. So I get it. And your creative skills got you the job, but now the job's kind of sucking the life out of your creative ability at home for your own personal thing. And look, let me quickly tell you about Sarah, a client I worked with, and she's a UX designer for a fintech startup. And her passion is film photography, but on the street, like street photography. And she's blessed. Her aunt, who studied art in London in the 70s, gave her a Leica, beautiful vintage Leica. I mean, it's probably worth loads of money, but it's gorgeous and it's stunning to use. And she gets to use it. She puts it in her bag when she's kind of going to the office, and maybe out at lunch she'll take it out and shoot. But she spends all her day making these pixel perfect mock-ups for kind of banking apps, and all the decisions have to be like data driven, and it's just a bit on the restrictive side. And by the time she gets home, she's spent 8 to 10 hours in front of her screen, Slack messages, Zoom calls, talking to clients, building out products, staring at the tools she uses to build those screens, and she's just drained. And when she gets to the weekend, she just wants to shut her laptop. She doesn't want to get to any of it. And with the cost of rent here in Dublin, I think she had a bit of a mishap with equity in the business. She really struggles to justify getting her film processed. So she's kind of stuck, and she's stymied, and she's drained. And then, in some ways, her identity is split between, the creative stuff that she does at work and the creative work that she does, for herself to keep her going and keep her own energy and her own motivation up. And I get it. And I talk to lots of, creative people like this who are closet creatives at work. Yes, they might use their creative skills, but it means they get home not feeling motivated or energized to do their own thing, and that's hard. I get it. And then there's also, there is part of that identity challenge. They're going, am I really an artist? If I'm just showing up and it's work, can I really be a photographer or a writer, a musician? Can I really be one of those things if I'm not actually putting out work? And that just kind of becomes really hard. And then if you're spending all that time commuting to work, going into the office, spending your time there, a lot of people struggle to think, do they have time? Have they got time to do this? And often by the time they get round to creating some time on the weekend, they've either got no energy, motivation, or they're just tired and they just want to curl up in the bed like Ivy and just have a little nap, And I totally get that. because the evenings and the weekend are recovery time from work. So maybe if there's a long weekend, or maybe at the moment people are taking vacations, holidays, stepping away from the office. But that brings its own stress. Being able to like box off your work before you go and coming back to a full inbox and maybe demands and maybe follow-ups on things that were supposed to be done. So it's stressful in its own way. Like, I get it. What's the real cost in all of this? What do you actually lose? I think on some level, people lose creative confidence. They feel that their artistic identity is slipping it away. They can't justify it if they've got some sort of social media presence, or audience for their work. You're not showing up. You're not being able to put it out there, and you feel that constant pang. Like, I also think that, you're not able to identify as that. You see professionals who work in your desired space, and they are showing up, and there's that comparison. And then when you get to actually doing the work, there's like, you've lost that joy in creativity. It feels like another job or another chore, and it shouldn't feel like that. It should feel fun. We should do this art because it's an expression of who we are, and it should come from the heart. And when it's so tightly time boxed or constrained by finances or any things, it feels suppressed, and it's hard to be joyful and kind of abandoned in it. And then there's a compounding effect of all of those things where like our skills start to atrophy and they start to fail us, and we've got to go and pick up the manual. And honestly, I came back from holidays and I pulled out some of my gear, and I had to like look at the manual and go, how do I use this again? And that just gets in the way of the creative process. Like, I get that. And then it's a vicious cycle. You come home and you're too tired after work to start creating. The weekends sometimes feel overwhelming in terms of catching up with family, friends, laundry, adulting, all those other things. And do I really want to try and carve out time for this? Is it important? And often we start things and we don't have a plan, or we can't see how we're going to finish, and then the projects pile up and you start to feel guilty about it, and you feel defeated. You feel like you can't get there, you can't achieve anything. And on top of that, then, like I said already, that creative identity just starts to fade away, and you're just your job title. And that might sound creative, but it's not as creative as like street photographer, electronic music artist, or novel writer. Those things spark joy and like really set you alight when you think about it, when you think about the adventure that it could take you on. And all those things are tough. Here are 4 signs that you might be stuck in this trap. So first one, your tools are gathering dust. If they're physical tools, they're packed away, or they literally have dust in them on the shelves. And you've got to brush them off. You've got to connect them all back together. You've got to get back to it. 2, you follow inspiring artists who are putting out work. And then you also have grand plans about what all of these projects stacked up could look like. But you're not working on anything actively. And the 4th one, you feel resentful towards people who are professionals or do have it all together and are able to put something out there. Let's think about a couple of strategic solutions that could help you to make some progress around this. Okay, so one would be, what mindset shifts can we undertake? Rather than trying to maintain your creativity, like really focus in on the energy it takes to be creative, like to actually make it creative. And, when we're just maintaining our skills, when we're maintaining something, for me, that's just a little bit lifeless. But when I think about creativity, I feel like it's meant to light us up. It's meant to fire us up. Like there's a different energy that's required for it. And maybe that means we need to go to bed a little bit earlier on the weekend and make sure that we have headspace on the Saturday or Sunday morning where we're going to do it, or later in the day, or create a little bit of space around it so we can restore our energy and then walk into our creative space, and enjoy it. I think one of the important things is thinking about quality over quantity. Actually starting something and finishing it gives such an energetic boost to build up the reps to go, I am a finisher. I do complete things, and whether you take that, whether you're like, hey, I can do this at work. I can start a project. I can work through it. I can deliver it. I can collaborate and I can get it out. Remember that when you're, maybe feeling a bit lackluster about your own personal projects, and get into it and think about, oh, yeah, let's try something. And even if that means trying something smaller, and then don't berate your day job. Your day job funds your passions. It funds your holidays. It funds your explorations and your adventures. So I think it's helpful to just think about it in that way, and think about the fact that it's enabling you to have access to the gear, to pay the subscriptions, potentially to pay to have your film, processed, whatever it is. Think about it that way. Don't be like, oh, damn the job, because it's not allowing me this. Maybe there's a way you can change that, but right now, just let it be cool. And remember, you're not competing with full-time artists. You have a full-time job, and their full-time job is to create art in whatever sphere you're excited about. So you can't compare someone's, full-time aspirations where they've put all this work in with yours. That's not a helpful way of thinking. Let them do their thing and let it be great. And you do your thing and let it be energetic and wonderful and powerful to your own life. A couple of practical strategies. One thing that has really helped me over the past couple of years is I've realized that I'm not very good at time management. Not that I can't meet a deadline, but I find when I think more about energy management, about when I have the most energy in the day, in the week, month, years, when I think about when I'm most energetic, and generally for me it's the mornings or it's later on in the evenings. Middle of the afternoon, I'm almost always ready for a nap. I find it hard to get through specific things, but I know that the mornings and evenings are better for me. So I try to, take admin stuff out of there going, I could, hoover the house, do laundry, all that stuff in the middle of the afternoon, pack it away, pick up the kids. All of those distractions are easier because I know that my real creative thinking and my processing works best in the mornings. And that's where I'm able to focus. So maybe you need to think about taking a note on your phone for a couple of days when you felt the most energetic, when you felt the most creative, when you felt the most inspired. Chances are you've gotten to my stage in life, you have a good idea if you're a morning, afternoon, or evening person. Or maybe you're combo. Maybe you're burn the candle at both ends. I love the mornings, I love the evenings. I'm terrible in the middle, which is kind of, I guess it's a sandwich. That would describe me. But also think about maybe taking that energy and going, oh, let me find a little gap in the morning. So that could be like I said, Sarah brings her camera in her bag on the way to the office. So get off the bus, stop earlier and walk, or get an earlier bus and have a few minutes to wander around the city and take those photographs. Or find a way to, on your commute, make voice memos or pull together, inspiration that you see, or kind of knit up, photo collections, whatever that looks like. And then maybe there's other times, maybe on your lunch break, you have food, but I always find that I've usually got another block of time where I can go out for a walk or I can sit down and I can do something. It's amazing what 15 to 20 minutes can do when it's connected up. I actually did the maths on it. 15 minutes, 3 times a week is nearly actually it's 39 hours. It's nearly a full week's work over a whole year. And that's only 15 minutes, 3 times a week. It completely, goes way out the roof. If you're able to do 30 minutes, 7 days a week, that's almost 4 weeks of work over the whole year. It's a lot of time, but it sounds like nothing. But it all adds up and it compounds because then your skills are being used, your tools are out, you need to be, it's going to be a short space of time. You need to be able to get to it. You need to have it set up. You don't want to spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes plugging it in, set it up, and that's why having a small little setup might help. Something that you can, if you can maybe jam on your phone, there's apps you can jam on your phone, or maybe you use your phone for photography. whatever. There's lots of ways to think about it. Lots of ways to get into what you're doing in a small way and think about it, you know. And then I guess that really plays on to the next thing is like, how do you right size your project? So think about making an album of 4 tracks instead of, sorry, an EP of 4 tracks instead of an album of like 7 or 8, you know, and then later on you can maybe stitch 4 EPs together and go, hey, here's a little collection. You know, maybe you sign up for a 30-day challenge, you know, so it's not a year-long project and it's something that you're going to do a little bit every day. And I've done this over the years. It's been super helpful. If you scroll back on my Instagram, you'll see a few where I've done photography stuff. Really enjoyed it. And then actually finding places to collaborate is really helpful. You know, it's finding other people to work with and building some accountability helps to keep us going. It externalizes our reporting. Like, you can't slack off. Well, one thing I've suggested to a couple of people who've been in touch is actually having an accountability partner, like a creative as well, and, you know, ping them on a Sunday night and say, hey, here's my update, here's a photo of what I'm working on, or here's the steps that I've taken this week, and then have them share back so that there's a sense of progression. And maybe you're not working on the same project, that's fine. But yeah, I do think it's helpful to have that as well. And also remember that creativity is often seasonal. I know at work we're expected to deliver all the time, every week, but I really feel like our energy is seasonal as well. I know I get a massive boost in the summer when my bedroom's lighting up at 5 a.m. and it's not getting dark till like nearly 10 here in Dublin. And that extra light makes me feel so much more energized, you know. But also when we've done a chunk of work, we need to take a break. We need to rest. Here's a couple of boundaries that you might want to consider. Actually turn down extra work on projects that you know are not going to light you up. They're going to drain extra resource. And that might be something you volunteer at. It might be at work. You might be able to go, hey, like this is too much at the moment. My bandwidth's full. I can't take anything else on. One thing that I find is really helpful is actually having a separate space. Now, because I'm in the messy middle, ideally I would have this area over here set up for my music, so I'm able to turn around, ignore the computer, and get on making work. Right now I've got it set up on my desk, you know, but I will get back to having a separate place, and maybe even having it in a separate room. So if you've got a little nook you can have in your living room, bedroom, kitchen, where you can have a tiny setup of what you're able to get to, just being able to step away and being really cognizant that I'm going to do this thing and I do it here, you know. And if your thing is the right mood lighting, music, candles, bringing your coffee with you, speaking of coffee, it's important to be able to set that up, you know. Another thing is digital boundaries. You know that all the time I've been talking about, like, when people say they've got no time, my first question is usually, how much time do you spend on your phone every day? How much time are you doom scrolling? How many Netflix series do you have on the go at once? And is there something there that you could tweak with to get a little bit of time back? And often when we do that, we're tired and we're emotional and we're restorative at the end of the day. But ultimately, that's giving away your attention to other people. And if you can find a way to hook that back and claim some of that back, like, honestly, you'd be better off putting your phone down half an hour earlier and getting to sleep. Even if it doesn't mean you're going to be, you know, do something creative, that extra half hour of rest will pay dividends the next day, and you'll have more emotional stability and you'll be better able to make choices that get you to a place where you can find 15 to 30 minutes a day to make some art. Something that's going to light you up and really fill you back up with energy and restore you. One thing I'm sure you've heard about is time boxing. Like, have a strict start and end time for your creative work. Know what you're going to do. Oh, hang on. I'm going to let the little lady out. You have a professional advantage. You know how to work to a deadline and within constraints. You know how to take feedback. You know how to finish a project. You know how to follow through. You know how to communicate to an audience. Take all of those things and use them to your advantage. Use them, to multiply the skill set that you have around your creativity. Like, honestly, these are all muscles that we've built up over years of reps going in and out of the office. Why not take that and apply it to your creative projects? Like, make your stuff sing, make it come alive. Remember that you can finish stuff. You're really good at that, and you're able to take feedback and you're able to iterate. Like, all of those things that you've done at work, like, they're not wasted. You just haven't seen the connection between them and the artwork that you're trying to produce. So don't forget that. It's important. Let's make an action plan. This week, you're going to start off by auditing your energy. Like I said already, that's as simple as just taking a note in your phone at the end of the day of when you felt most energetic, when you felt most engaged. Keep an eye on that and then start to be able to plan, how can I use that? So can you get up a little bit earlier and find 20 minutes before you got to leave the house for work? Whether you do something like, morning pages, or you kind of work on your own projects, that's entirely up to you. But any creativity is going to start to build up your reserves of creativity, because I just think that the creativity muscle, it never ends. It just continues to multiply. When you get creative, when you stay creative, it just builds and you start thinking creatively in so many different ways. And choose one small project to work on. Don't sweat going to something big. Choose something that's small, that you seems achievable and you can box off. Because I think actually having something in the bag, something that's done, even if it's a part of a bigger piece, it'll just build your confidence and build that finishing muscle and remind you that you can work on and finish your stuff. Even though the stresses of work, the busyness of life, and the other constraints that we have. You've got this. Take some time to set up your space. Take a little bit of room on your desk, in your bedroom, wherever you can have a little setup, set it up, have a little play with it, and be able to go there and work and commit to that small amount of time every day, every week, so that you're actually able to make that progress. It'll pay off in the end. And schedule that creative time. Remember, it's like a meeting with you. So what can you do this month? And kind of a little bit of a longer time. Try to get a project done within the month time frame, so you're able to kind of tick that off. It'll really help. Connect with others. One thing that I was doing, particularly when we were all on Zoom calls, was seeing what people had behind them. If they've got a guitar or an easel or a nice kind of camera up on the shelf, like, a little ping in the middle of a Zoom call to say, hey, I see that. Well, I love a bit of, whatever it might be. And I've just been able to build a connection with other, corporates who love their own creativity in the evenings and on the weekend. And like, I know so many people who've got their guitar besides their, and they get off the call, maybe noodle for a few minutes, go make a cup of coffee, come back and get on with work. Two of the things you can try is documenting the process. Keep an eye on what's working, when it's working, when you're most productive, when you're able to finish things off. And review that at the end of the month and think back and go, where am I most effective? Where is this most useful? And in finishing that project, you are building your creative muscle. And those small wins, they add up and they're important to reestablishing that creativity in your life. For a lot of creatives that I talk to, this is not just a productivity issue. It's often connected to their identity. Like, there's lots of different excuses that people have. And it's not just about having time on the calendar. It's about what energy you show up. It's about what you bring to it. It's about why you're doing it. All those things are as important as making the time, setting up the space, and getting ready. So be kind with yourself. And it's okay to try and to experiment and try out different things. And also, what everybody needs is different. In talking to people, I've realized that there's at least 4 different types of creative finishers, and I've created an assessment. There's a link in the bio, and it's just a tab on my website, and it'll help you to figure out where you get stuck in the middle of projects, where you kind of trip up, and if you fill it in, I will get back to you within 24 hours with a video message. I'll read your results and I'll kind of let you know what type of finisher you are, but also a couple of really specific action points. Now, some of them I'll have mentioned in this video, but they'll be specific to your type of finisher and they'll help you to move on and start accomplishing some projects and get into a flow and build up a success bank of like being a completionist, and getting your thing done. And it's helpful and it'll help you to move on. So if you can take the time to fill that in, I'll send you back the results. Remember, your day job doesn't have to suck up all your creativity, and you have different priorities than somebody who has all day to make art, and that's okay. But I'd love to hear in the comments, what type of work you do and kind of where maybe you get stuck. But don't remember, your day job doesn't have to be the end of your Remember, your day job doesn't have to be the death of your creativity. You've just got different priorities from people who have all day to make art. But you have a different skill set, to people who do do it as a full-time gig. Take them and use them and have it magnify and amplify your creativity. Okay, back to pretending that you're working on a spreadsheet. And if you've got more time, maybe it's the evening of the weekend, YouTube's going to suggest another video of mine here, and hopefully it'll help you to get over a different area or block that you've got in your creativity. Okay, I hope this helped. Please let me know in the comments if it has. And until next time, keep creating.